Hi, I'm Alex Ashore from nuBridges. I'm a senior technical engineer here today, and I'm here to talk to you about encryption on the I-series in consideration of encrypting your data. There's a number of different reasons to encrypt data on the I-series. Probably the primary one is the PCI compliance. Visa, MasterCard, American Express have very specific rules on how you treat data and how you track access to that data. Another growing concern is PII, personal information, that is stored for a number of reasons, whether it's insurance, salary, whatever. There are a number of federal, state, worldwide laws on how that data needs to be protected. So when you consider protecting data on your I-series, you want to consider a few factors. One of the primary ones is how am I going to encrypt that data? Because there are some simple utilities that are free with the I-series. If you're on a modern version of the operating system, you have APIs that will encrypt the data. So why wouldn't you use those simple little utilities? The reason lies in those mandates that I just mentioned, the PCI mandate, the PII mandates. They have very specific rules that say you can't have direct access to data. And using those simple little APIs, basically if I have access to the command, I'm just one step away from the data. That's not in compliance with the rules. So when you consider encrypting the data, you want something that removes the programmer from having direct access to that data. So maybe they can use the commands, but they can't actually see the data, or they can see the last 4 characters or some sort of mask so that they can understand the programs are working. The second thing is auditing. You have to know who's gained access to that. And it can't be something as simple as the system journals or system logs. Those just aren't secured. Anybody savvy on the I-series can clear their path with just a few commands. So when you're auditing, you need some facility that not only tracks what you need to know, who, when, how much access, what type of access, but you need some facility to make that auditing tamper-proof, swept to another system. Very specific rules on this. The third thing has to do with key management. It's one thing to use something to encrypt data and get your data protected. It's another thing when that key has to be rotated. And the mandates all say that I have to rotate my keys periodically, whether it's at the end of a time period or I feel there might have been some sort of breach. So what do I do when it's time to introduce a new key? With these simple little utilities, I have to decrypt my data in the clear, basically putting them somewhere unsecure, introduce a new key, and then re-encrypt the data. Now, if I've got millions and millions of records, this is an interruption to my business. And let's use the lost tape scenario, where I have to scramble to do this so that I don't get in any sort of fines or breach. Well, what does that mean for my business? How am I going to keep track of keys on something as simple as backup tapes? You know, what happens if an auditor comes in and says, I need to see something from 3 years ago? How are you going to track those keys? So when you're considering the solution, you need a good key manager that can actually keep track of the keys, introduce new keys, and not cause an interruption in business. The fourth thing is implementation. What good is a protection scheme if it takes me forever to implement? I have trouble auditing this. My key rotation takes forever. I need some method that implements security without interrupting my entire business. I need some method that doesn't cause me to have to rewrite every program. One of the considerations of implementation is if I take something and I encrypt it, let's say I use a standard AES algorithm, and I have a numeric field. Well, it's no longer numeric when I'm done. That means a change to the structure of my file. If I change the structure of a file, every program over that file has to be adjusted too. I don't care if that program needs access or not. That can be quite a challenge to get going. So when you're considering your solution for protecting your data, consider how long and what is going to be required to implement this protection scheme. The last thing you want to also consider is there's very few environments that are just I-series anymore. I might do most of my business on the I-series, maybe not. But I almost assuredly have Windows, maybe Linux, maybe a mainframe out there that needs to communicate. And with a lot of these simple little utilities out there, if I want to move data from Windows, I have to decrypt it over here, pretty much send it in the clear, and then convert and re-encrypt the data on the I-series or whatever other platform. So when you're considering your overall enterprise protection scheme, also consider that you need to be able to have some method to protect the data between systems. So these 5 considerations need to be taken not lightly when you're determining how best to protect the data in your enterprise.